And that is us. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Just 1 minute into afternoon.
Just 1 minute into the afternoon. I know it feels like I was obviously I was just explaining to you there, Jonny. It does feel a bit strange for me, like given that I've not been awake very long. So I've got my coffee. We're all good here. But yeah, welcome everyone to our Only Fins style preview of Ireland v Scotland, happening tomorrow.
Wow. And then that's it. No more Six Nations for another year.
Finale of the Six Nations. Yeah. It's been, I think overall in terms of the Six Nations, obviously it's been a strange one, and it was as if for me. So obviously we'll go through the teams. We'll have our thoughts on it and stuff. But I was at a work event when the team came out yesterday, and my phone exploded.
Yeah, I was driving back from Dalkeith and I started getting like ping, 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 ping. And I was like, that'll be the team right there. Yeah. Did not expect to see what I saw when I looked at the team, but there we go.
Yeah, I was I jumped out at lunch to do a quick video call with Cammy, and I thought he was joking. I genuinely thought he was I thought he was ripping me, actually. I was like, come on, no. So I was like, that's too easy, Cammy. You can't like get creative, mate. But no. So I guess some of you, if you're tuning in and you have no idea whatsoever what we're talking about just now, where have you been? What rock have you been under for the last 24 hours? Yes, the news is the King of Blairhorn himself has been granted the keys to the number 10 shirt against one of the best defences in Europe. Townsend was kind of quoted as he seemed very bullish when questioned in the press as to why, because obviously I think a lot of the questions revolve around why's Finn being dropped as opposed to why's Blair being promoted. And Townsend was quite quick to kind of point out that, you know, he gave a lot of reasons why Kinghorn deserves a shot. But the reaction from Scotland fans, Jonny, has perhaps not been quite as supportive as Townsend's kind words were.
No. I don't know how to word this. I'm not as anti the Blair Kinghorn experiment as some people are. I understand it as a concept. The changes that have been made to the team this week for this game, I don't really understand. Personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So let's walk through the team. We will come back. I think a lot of time will be spent talking about the 10 shirt. But let's wander through the team. I'll just get the right tab up. Well, again, are we going to go traditional 15 to 9, 1 to 8 like normal people?
Let's do it. Read it the way that it's on the site, I suppose.
They have actually done that. That's good.
Yeah, they have.
Right, so we've got back three of Hogg, Darcy Graham, and Kyle Steyn keeps his place. Any shock there, Jonny?
Yes and no. I mean, Steyn did all right. He's done all right for Glasgow through the year. If it was me, 11's probably where I would have put Blair Kinghorn, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, given what else is going on around the team and the selections elsewhere, you can't really argue. Steyn's probably the person that with the players we've got available and the way we've put everybody else out, Steyn is the person you'd put in at 11, I would think, probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think we touched on it in the main pod as well, that half the battle is being available, and, you know, people are like, well, where's Rufus McLean? Where's this player? Where's that player? And it's like, they're injured. Like, we have actually got quite a few injuries in our backs now. So I think Steyn's, as I said on Wednesday, Steyn's he is the next cab, and I think it's sensible that he's in there. But I will heavily caveat that with, I completely agree with your sentiment regarding who indeed should be in the 11 shirt, but that's fine. Because of selections elsewhere, we're now in this position. And I think it is a bold decision from Townsend, because it really is nailing those colours to the mast to say that we don't consider Blair as a winger or a fullback. We consider him as a 10. So, yeah, no issue with staying for me. Right, so centres, Chris Harris, first choice pick as always. And Sam Johnson keeps his place beside him.
Good. Did you see, I don't know if you did, I think it was Kevin Miller that put something out yesterday to say basically Scotland win when Sam Johnson plays and lose when he doesn't. And I think quite a few of us actually already knew that. I think Sammy's one of the most underrated players in the team for me. Yeah. I'm always more than happy to see a team that's got him at 12 above basically any of the other choices, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've said that a number of times on here. I've had many Twitter wars with people saying how Sam Johnson's finished. And you're like, what? You're like, do you actually watch rugby? I mean, come on, seriously.
I saw someone say Ross Thompson's finished the other day, and like,
oh yeah, no, I did see that one. Yeah.
That's a big old tell me you don't know anything about rugby flag for me, but
without saying you don't. Yeah, no, I did. I liked that one. That was good fun. Yeah, he's finished. It's like, yeah, he's been pro for less than 2 years. Right. You can tell there's a little bit of tension here, isn't there? There's a little bit of bitterness going on here. Right, we'll jump in here just before. Obviously, we're going to dot back and forth, but Dougie, welcome, Dougie. Good to see you again, pal. Is Craig staying off with the rage against all the King Blairhorn haters? I'm surprised he's not been hospitalised with all the vitriol flying around on social media. Yeah, I mean, even in our little private chat, it's been quite funny.
Yeah, he's not a happy man.
No,
but he's working. That's the reason he's not.
Yeah, he's working.
I think he's desperate to have his say about it.
Yeah, it's really important for us to say he absolutely was invited along today. We did not just decide that me and Jonny would take the reins today. And we'll touch on other people's whereabouts. We will touch on later on. But yes, Craig, hope work is going well, son. We are not slagging Blair Kinghorn quite as much as you would think. Yet. So right, and without further ado, centre. So we're on to the halfbacks, and Ali Price, freshman man of the match last week. I mean, is it fair to say we're getting to a position now where there's maybe only 2 or 3 decisions to be made? If everyone is playing like to a reasonable standard, we could maybe question. I think the decision is that there is no other options at 15, but you could maybe question whether form is acceptable there. But if everyone's playing to a reasonable level, like I think most of that backs now picks itself.
I think so. Yeah. Chris Harris obviously basically chooses himself. Darcy Graham chooses himself. Ali was fantastic last week, so he's kind of answered a few questions about his performance. Sam Johnson, as far as I'm concerned, should pick himself.
Yeah.
I've nothing really massively against Tuipulotu or against Mark Bennett, but Sam Johnson is the best option as far as I'm concerned.
I think the thing I've got against Tuipulotu is that despite when he's played at 12, I don't think he looks as good at 12 as he does at 13. And that's what I commented when the squad was released, that I would consider him a 13, Bennett a 13, Stain can play 13, Harris at 13. I think there was 5 picks at 13. It was like, all right, we're going a very particular way with this.
Yeah, I mean, the only real person who I'd say challenges Sam Johnson as an out-and-out 12 is Cam Redpath, and he's obviously injured again. So
totally agree. Edinburgh fans would say James Lang, but
he was all right when he was in the squad last year when he still played for Quins. He was okay, but he wasn't Sam Johnson. And what Sam Johnson's got is a lot more comfort and experience playing with Ali Price, with Finn Russell, with Stuart Hogg than James Lang did, because Lang's never really been in the setup with until he came to Edinburgh. He would turn up to the occasional Scotland training camp, and that was it. Whereas obviously Sam's been at Glasgow for a long time. He's played alongside Finn there. He's played alongside Hoggy there. He still plays with Ali at Glasgow, so he knows everybody a lot better. And I think that obviously helps him as well as being a great player.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. So we will no doubt come back to Kinghorn at 10, but just for full completion, obviously we've indicated, let's repeat it again. This is not a drill, people. This is not a drill. Blair Kinghorn has been selected at 10 for Scotland against Ireland. So we'll come back there. Let's go into the forwards now. So up front, do you know what? I have to give a shout out to a national news broadcaster have published the team sheet in the wrong way. I'm not using the SRU site. I'm using a national news broadcaster, and they've published it the wrong way. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of working between the lines here. So apologies in advance. Right, so up front, we've got Pierre Schumann, George Turner, Xander Fagerson. Again, little debate there.
No.
Partially because of depth.
Yeah.
The prop stock has been tested this time out, and
the injuries to Suz and Ollie Kebble are a bit of a disaster.
And the fact we have very few tight heads, if any. Although Simon Bergen, again, I mentioned him on Wednesday, he must be sitting over at Glasgow going, "What have I done?"
Yeah,
like potential first choice prop. Potential first choice for quite some time.
Is he starting tonight? I think he is.
I believe he is, yeah.
He's certainly in the Glasgow team, but I think he is starting.
Yep. So for those that maybe just follow the international game, don't follow the pro clubs, it is the 1872 Cup tonight as well over at Scotstoun, Glasgow v Edinburgh.
And interestingly, they put the teams out about 11 o'clock, 11:30 yesterday morning for the Glasgow Edinburgh teams for the game. So then you start to see things like Simon Bergen in the Glasgow team, Scott Cummings in the Glasgow team, Magnus Bradbury and Ben Velicott in the Edinburgh team. And so you start to get an idea of what the Scotland team was going to be like before it was even announced.
I wonder if they do that. So you would think the opposite would be the way to do it. Have the main headline and then the small. I do wonder if it's just to stoke social media fires.
Maybe.
Because it did. It started people. So, right, second rows. Hopefully my connection's staying quite steady. It might not be. But second rows, we've got Jonny Gray and we have got Grant Gilchrist. Jonny Gray returning from injury. It's been a huge miss this tournament. Huge miss. And I think, the old adage is absence makes the heart grow fonder. Right? And for me, seeing a team without Jonny Gray, and obviously Jamie Ritchie now in a situation where he's going to be missing for quite some time. The team without Jonny Gray is people were questioning Jonny Gray's position in that team prior to injury. Some fans, let's not say a majority, because some fans were asking, what does he bring to that team? He doesn't carry that well. His work rates, he brings work rate and that's it. And it's well, is that not a very crucial component of being a second row lock at international level?
Let's not forget that at the time that he was in Glasgow, not in the time he was in Glasgow, but throughout history, more people have walked on the moon than evaded a tackle from Jonny Gray in the Pro 14.
Exactly.
So
exactly, yes, that's such a good stat. It's great to see him back, and I think he'll bring something to that team. He'll obviously, he'll get through a prestigious amount of work. I do wonder about the logic of it personally, and this is one of those decisions. I get that you're trying to put your best team out to beat Ireland and maybe secure third place.
Are we though?
Well, that that is open for debate, isn't it? Yes. That maybe is influencing my thoughts on Jonny Gray, because realistically, I would like Jonny Gray to have a rest. He's got a hard slog ahead of him for the rest of the season. He's going to be working hard at Exeter. They'll make sure they get their pound of flesh out of him. And then you can then make a decision. If someone's missed a lot of rugby through the season, you can then make a decision to say, you know what, you could probably use you've got enough miles left in the tank for the summer. Let's get you along, experienced, could even captain the summer side. Or you say, go back to your club, batter into some work with your club. You'll get through at the end of the season, take the summer off. We're moving into a World Cup year, so let's pace ourselves. And we talked about this last World Cup as well. And remember how spent some of our boys looked out there. So I do wonder, the logic for me of it's not a dead rubber. It's not a dead rubber, but we're not going to win the tournament and we're not going to finish last. And I get that we should be trying to compete, but other decisions elsewhere have suggested that we're maybe experimenting a little bit.
Yeah.
So strange one.
And it's like when we did our Six Nations preview, what I said at the time of the Six Nations preview, which I'm sticking by, is I wasn't largely concerned about how the tournament as a whole goes. We've got to beat Ireland in 18 months.
Yeah.
When we get to the World Cup, if we want to get out of our pool of the World Cup, we have to beat Ireland. So what we should have been focusing on, as far as I'm concerned, for this tournament is building towards how do we beat Ireland. And for me, that means this is the game that we target, we put our best team out for. Rather than going all guns blazing to win the Calcutta Cup like we always do.
Yep.
If we weren't going to win the tournament, then this is the game I think we should have been targeting. So I don't know, there's some strange decisions.
It's been a tournament of strange decisions. Now, I can't believe I'm going to do this. Oh, the Glaswegian in me is really, really upset about this. This hurts, right? Is Townsend maybe doing exactly that? And maybe he believes that the game plan to beat Ireland revolves around Blair Kinghorn at 10.
Maybe he does.
I think you would maybe disagree.
No, maybe. I don't think I do disagree necessarily. And again, like, I'm sick of defending myself about saying one time that I thought Blair Kinghorn was all right. I do think Blair Kinghorn's all right. Blair Kinghorn's played at standoff 10 times.
Yeah.
He's played at standoff for Scotland once against Tonga. And like, he's not had a great tournament, but Finn Russell is a better player than Blair Kinghorn.
Yeah.
Like, but Finn Russell is without a doubt in the top 2 or 3 players in this Scotland squad. He might be in the top 5 or 10 Scotland players that we've ever had.
Yeah.
And I don't think Blair Kinghorn's a terrible player. And like I said at the start, I don't necessarily disagree with the experiment of Blair Kinghorn as a 10. I don't think that Blair Kinghorn's ever going to be chosen ahead of Finn Russell if they're both playing their best.
Yeah. And I think the other element to add to that is, and it's something I messaged to the group about, like picking someone on the basis of a run out against a Tonga side who'd met 2 days previous. Some guys were arriving on the morning of the game. It was like proper amateur o'clock. He played well in that game, and you can only play what's in front of you, and that's really important. But for me, again, and I've talked about this, we haven't seen the evidence yet that he can run a game against a top side. Now, conversely to that, this is this opportunity. Blair Kinghorn can go out there against Ireland, and if he can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and really dominate the game, that does shut up a lot of the doubters. You will be like, well, do you know what? Yeah, fair play to you, mate. My concern is it's almost, and I'm going to be very careful afterwards to choose how I say things, because I think, well, if Blair Kinghorn has a bad game, or if Scotland have a bad game as a whole, Blair Kinghorn has been set up here to absolutely take it from everywhere. I don't think that's really fair, and I think Craig's made some very valid points on that very topic on the group chat. I don't think that is fair, but ultimately that's part of the pressure that comes with being an international 10. We can talk all we want about the flack that Blair Kinghorn has taken to this point, whether we agree with decisions or not. But think, like, Finn Russell's taken flack in his career. Stuart Hogg's taken flack in his career. The documentary about the Irish 10s, which is on the BBC, really interesting. The flack they take from their press. 10 is a position that you're just going to have to accept that you're going to get criticism and people are going to always doubt you.
And I think we kind of have to make a distinction as well. about the fact that this is not all Blair Kinghorn's fault.
No.
So being moved to 10, not his decision, not his fault, not his problem. Being started tomorrow instead of Finn Russell, not his fault.
Yeah.
So people going out and saying, "Oh, this is I can't believe this. Like, how is Blair Kinghorn ended up being 10 instead of Finn Russell and blah 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 blah." None of that is Blair Kinghorn's fault. A directed abuse of Blair Kinghorn and skepticism of Blair Kinghorn for all of that, that's not fair because he didn't choose any of this. However, if he does go out tomorrow and play really badly, then it's also not fair to say, "Oh, we can't land this on Blair Kinghorn because he got put in that position."
Because he's
he's
not chosen this, but he's chosen to be a professional rugby player.
Yeah, exactly. But then as soon as he steps out of the field, if it goes badly because he plays badly, then I'm sorry, but that is his fault.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of scrutiny on his performance, I think, and some of that will be fair, some of it will be unfair. I think I'm just really looking forward to Squidgy's take on it when the time comes.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is worth mentioning is something that a few people were saying on Twitter yesterday, in that we are kind of letting Finn a bit off the hook here.
Yeah, that was
because the abuse that Finn was lined up to take. If tomorrow goes badly and Finn's playing and he doesn't play well, that he gets absolutely slaughtered for it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he's had 4 games where he hasn't played particularly well.
Yep.
So he is kind of getting let off the hook a little bit by the fact that as you say Blair Kinghorn has been lined up for a fall here.
Yeah, that it's a very interesting point because so part of me wonders. Again, I've talked on the podcast at length about where I think maybe Finn Russell's at just now. I don't think he's necessarily happy. I don't think he's necessarily fit.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah,
I don't know how fit he is.
I mean, he just for me, he just doesn't look. He doesn't look in. It's not that he doesn't look in shape. He looks. You know, he looks like Finn Russell. He just doesn't have. He looks a half yard off the pace at all times just now, and mentally he looks, a couple of yards off the pace actually.
I'll be interested to see what happens when he comes off the bench because I mean, like we saw what happened when he came off the bench for the Lions.
Yeah.
And I imagine he's going to sit there absolutely fuming tomorrow afternoon.
Well, that was Townsend was quoted as saying that when he initially spoke to Finn was something like extremely disappointed in the decision. And I was like,
I'll tell you what I think should happen if it was up to me is at halftime or 50 minutes, whatever, Finn would come on and Hoggy would come off.
Yeah.
And Blair Kinghorn goes to 15.
Yeah.
Because
that would be my preferred outcome as well.
Hoggy is the other one who needs to understand he's undroppable. And this is what's annoyed me about the whole Blair Kinghorn thing. It is not Blair Kinghorn. And it's nothing that he's done. But him being in the squad as the only 10 for the last 6 weeks has taken a massive amount of pressure off of Stuart Hogg.
Yeah.
Because if Blair Kinghorn is the only 10 in the squad, then he's the only person who could replace Finn Russell. But he's also the only person that could replace Hoggy. So where there's all this talk, there's been all this talk for 5 or 6 weeks about, is Blair Kinghorn going to get his chance at 10? This is the Blair Kinghorn experiment. Blair Kinghorn's our new 10 or whatever. Well, then that means nobody's looking at Stuart Hogg, who's had 4 games probably worse than what Finn Russell's had.
I would agree. And I think I know Craig kicked off on the podcast when I was trying to make the point that no player can play 2 positions at once. And what I genuinely was meaning about that was like literally Kinghorn is the only 10 cover, the only 15 cover. He can't play those 2 positions at once. So you as you rightly say, you need to drop one or other. So it's a frustrating quirk of the selection that's been done, but yeah, well, let's fingers crossed. We'll be watching from behind. Actually, we will be watching from some. We'll be watching from behind somewhere. As most of you do, right? We'll quickly touch on the bench. We'll touch on Ireland, and then we'll do a quick promo for what's going to happen this weekend, and then we'll take it from there. The bench, Fraser Brown out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
For me, McInally's not been great, but Brown has no pedigree just now. He's a penalty machine.
Yes.
So that's a bold shout. Interesting, but let's see how we go. That strikes someone not taking it seriously, but hey-ho.
Yes.
Alan Dell and WP Nell, which Squidge is right. That does sound great to say. We've got Sam Skinner as the replacement lock. Josh Bayless looking to get a cap off the bench. He's looked decent in the club game, and there's been plenty of calls for him. He adds a certain abrasion to that back row that it'll be good to see. If
I like Josh Bayless.
That. Yeah, very, very decent player. Then the three backs on the bench, we've got Ben White, which, don't get me wrong, Ben Velcott looked great for the 4 minutes he was on, but I think Ben White, for me, has been the kind of breakout player of this tournament for Scotland. He's looked really good in his cameos, pace, and just he looks like a Scotland scrum half. He looks like a direct replacement for Ali Price, so I've been really pleased with him. Then we've got the sulking Finn Russell on the bench. He'll not be sulky. He'll be fine. So Finn's on the bench with an energy drink. And then Mark Bennett gets his chance from the bench as well, probably covering 13 and wing, potentially. Unless Harris is covering wing. Unless Blair Kinghorn's covering wing.
Kinghorn, yeah. See, this is the... This is what's going to happen, right? I'm finally going to make people understand that I don't hate Blair Kinghorn. They're going to start telling me I hate Mark Bennett. I don't understand. With so many versatile players in the Scotland squad, I don't think Mark Bennett covers anywhere apart from 13.
Not anymore. In his younger days, you could play him on the wing because he had steering pace, but two ACL reconstructions have probably so fit.
And so this is... like you said earlier with Jonny Gray, this is what I don't understand, because this team seems to be going in two different directions.
Yeah.
Like, clearly, if you're playing Blair Kinghorn at 10, then you're experimenting. But if you're experimenting, why are you playing Jonny Gray? Why are you risking him when he's just come back from injury? If you're experimenting, why is Fraser Brown on the bench and not Ewan Ashman?
Yeah.
So in some places, it looks like we're consolidating because we've got Jonny Gray back in, we've got Fraser Brown back in, who's the most experienced hooker in the squad. But then in other ways, we're starting Blair Kinghorn at 10. We don't have Ewan Ashman in. We don't, we could have had Jamie Hodgson in for a second row cover. There's plenty of players, really versatile players, we could have had a run out off the bench as our extra back. So why is Mark, with all due respect to Mark Bennett, why is Mark Bennett there? If this is an experimental team, why is there he's 30?
You know what Mark, a bit about that. Yeah, you know what he brings, you know what he does.
Yeah. And being perfectly honest, where he is in his career and the way he's playing at the moment, the cover that he can give off the bench is pretty limited.
Yeah.
So he's not an experimental choice. Fraser Brown's not an experimental choice. Jonny Gray is a big risk, and we know exactly what Jonny Gray can do. So yeah, I just don't understand why it's so experimental in some places and so almost bordering on regressive in other places. It just doesn't make sense.
This is the Harvey Two-Face of Scotland squads. I was watching a Batman promo just before this, so so we've got the Harvey Two-Face of Scotland squads. So speaking of direction, Ireland, the Irish team, I think there's only one direction Ireland are going to be going. That will be straight as the North Star. They picked a very experienced side. So the headlines are Ian Henderson gets a run out, obviously replacing Jack Ryan, who had that head knock. You've got Mac Hansen comes in on the wing, and Jack Conan, who I always like Jack Conan. I think he's a very, very good player.
That back row is pretty terrifying. Our back row is good. It's the one that we all want to see. So it should be a battle, but geez,
it's going to be, again, if Ireland can get that physical dominance at the breakdown, then yeah, we're going to be up against it. But I mean, the thing with this Irish team is, again, obviously they put England away. They made hard work of it, and again, I think the physicality Ireland have been bringing has been very impressive, but there's perhaps been times where composure hasn't been completely their thing. And I would even say, and I said in the podcast, that a lot of that has, or I said on another podcast, sorry, a lot of that has come from, for me, Johnny Sexton is still the wrong man at 10 for them. and he actually slows down so much of what Ireland are doing, and
Yeah,
cause...
and the problem is that it's basically a nightmare halfback combination because Sexton is too slow and Gibson Park is too fast.
yes, absolutely. So you've got, and then you've got your two centres outside that who are both. So Aki barely touched the ball at the weekend, and then Ringrose has kind of been hung out to dry for making errors, but he's getting isolated because you've got nothing around him.
Yeah.
So,
annoyingly, I think some of the areas where we could get to Ireland looked weak against England last weekend, and that makes me think that that's not going to happen again this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be
like,
showed right up.
You look at that front row, and you think potentially maybe Shumi and Xander can get after that front row, but they were so sloppy last week that you think that that's not like they're not going to be as sloppy this week as they were last week. And Furlong's one of the best props in the world, and he had I don't know whether he had a stinker or whether he just wasn't getting any help, and Ellis Genge was like some sort of demon
on the wrong side
week.
of the ref.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen again. Unfortunately, I would have liked it to happen this week instead of last week.
Yeah, and from Ireland in terms of the bench as well, you've kind of got all the it reads like a who's who of people I don't like. So Rob Herring, Kilcoyne, Beelum, Treadwell, Mahoney, Murray, Carberry, Henshaw. I mean, it's I kind of hope Ireland decide to put Conor Murray on quite early, and then we just watch
I don't, because he changed the game for them last week.
He did actually, but I think that was his. I think he's a busted flush now with that. I think he's done his bit now, and it'll be back to box kicking to within an inch of his life. I once played in the slowest centre partnership, I think, in the history of rugby, and I think that Murray and Sexton would challenge, from a halfback perspective. But anyway, so predictions, we were fairly sure it's an Ireland win, yeah?
I would think so, yeah.
Damage limitation?
Yeah. Do you know, if we could get a bonus point, we can still be third, but I just don't know how it's going to happen. Unless Finn comes in with 40 minutes, half an hour to go and goes turbo, then... Because, I mean, ideally, the ideal scenario is that we win, but if we lose 34-38, we get 2 bonus points, and then we'll be clear in third. Can't see it happening, but I don't know.
Well,
I don't feel much confidence. Let's put it that way.
No, I think that's clear. And that's a really nice segue to finish us off. Can't see it happening. Well, where you will be able to see it happening is...
Very nice.
So honestly, when we were sponsored, I was the master at those segues. So yeah, where you can see it happening with your favourite podcasters is over at Portobello Rugby Club this Saturday. There is, as some of you will know, there's a whole range of activities going on, and myself, Jonny, Ian, and Craig will all be there doing a kind of pre-post mids. Let's see what happens sort of approach to basically what we do on our podcast, revolving around winging it. We will be replicating that in Portobello Rugby Club. All are welcome. Get yourself along. I think there's a touch tournament and all sorts of things going on around the club, so be really interesting. You will notice I didn't mention Cammie's name. Sadly, our divine leader himself won't be present due to... I think you can imagine due to what.
Yeah, I bet you can guess.
I bet you can guess. Yes, it's been with us for a couple of years, so it's not because of Blair Kinghorn starting at 10. Put it that way. But yeah, so we'll do our best to hold the fort over there. There's going to be some quizzes, a wee bit of fun and games going on, and it will be Pod versus
Porty.
Pod, and for some reason in my head I had Pandy going on. And I'm thinking, is that not from
Fireman Sam?
Fireman Sam, yeah. I was like, we're not playing a Welsh village, and none of us are a fireman. So what's going on? Pod versus Porty. Thank you, Jonny. In a couple of games. So if you want to come along and see us make embarrass ourselves and do the usual stuff. Do
remember, if you come along, that McGinty is an Irish name, so if you see me wearing green, just mind your business.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say. That's how confident I am about tomorrow.
That's how confident you are. I like that. And yes, just remember as well, these podcasters, we also have mothers, so be nice to us. Bit of an in-joke there, but yeah, so I hope lots of you can come along. It should be a cracking wee day. Looking forward to seeing as many of you as we can, and there will be plenty of beers had by all, I'm sure. And yes, we'll probably be watching, I think we're watching all the games, but there will be, I'm sure the Scotland Ireland one will be kind of done through fingers from behind a couch somewhere. But yeah, so that is us. That final only fins of the Six Nations. Thanks to everyone that's joined us throughout this wee section. We enjoyed doing these wee preview pods, and hopefully we can see a few of you tomorrow. Hopefully Scotland get a win, and we can have a happy clappy pod next Wednesday. We'll be looking obviously at a Six Nations review quite soon. I'm sure the 1872 might get mentioned as well.
Well, we'll see who wins first.
Go Glasgow. It should be a good game. So, yeah, so with that, it is, I guess, goodbye from myself and goodbye from Jonny.
Bye. See you tomorrow, hopefully.